Hi, and welcome to another episode of SMECO Connects. I'm Sonja Cox, your host, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Tom Dennison.
Well, it's great to be here again.
Hi,
and thanks for having me. What are we talking about today?
I don't know, any and everything. I think we're going to talk about capacity shortage.
Right.
Generation shortage.
Exciting topic, but more importantly, that term capacity, congestion, all that kind of thing, it gets lost on folks, but it contributes to electricity prices. And I think that is front of center in many people's minds right now. And I know you hear about it and I hear about it.
Right.
So yeah, let's dive in.
Okay. You hear a lot of talk about large loads coming into different areas.
Mm-hmm.
By large loads, we mostly mean data centers.
Yep.
Because they take a lot of electricity.
Yes.
So between that and I guess other growth in our area, and then just generation plants closing, especially in Maryland, coal plants, closing down, it's left us with a bit of an issue as far as having enough generation on the system.
It sure has, and it is it is the topic of conversation, I think, that is really driving a lot of political discussions right now. In Maryland, we have an election next year for governor, and every member of the General Assembly is up for election next year. And you're already starting to see it now about why is my bill so high and who's to blame.
Right.
And in politics, you always see that, and you're definitely going to see it as we get closer to the election. And in my life, I mean, it's going to be front and center for the General Assembly session that's going to start in January and go through April. So, yeah, there's a couple of things that I know I talk to people about when it comes to this issue and why prices are going up. I think it's been close to 40%. I'm not sure over like what that time frame is. You may know better than I, but let's just kind of put things into perspective that our PJM grid, that's the grid that serves 13 different states, including Maryland. Since 2018, there have been 6,000 gigawatts of power that have been retired.
Right.
And it's been only replaced by a very small number, well, comparatively small number of new electricity. So that supply curve going down combined with the demand curve going up leads to the market responding.
Right.
And that market response has been higher prices.
Right.
So what are we doing? Well, I know at SMECO, one of the things that we're proud of is the way we procure power.
Right.
And the way we hedge our contracts. We have this managed portfolio that's been recognized by state and our state legislators and the Public Service Commission about how we purchase power and try to keep prices as stable as we can and immune from the real high spikes and things. But we're also going to be in the middle of discussions about how we bring new generation to the state.
Right.
And so it's going to be a challenge. I mean, Maryland is a deregulated state, meaning utilities do not own generations. And so.
And when was that? When did we do that? That was back in what, 1999?
Yes. So 99, the state chose to deregulate electricity. And it's funny, I have a meeting next week with a reporter, actually, who I worked with in my former job. He's actually doing a deep dive on the deregulation of 99 and what was going on in the industry and how it has impacted the industry today in Maryland. Right. And we're going to get together and just, catch up a lot. But, there were some interesting players back then. In 99, the leading people who were pushing for that was Enron. Remember Enron?
I do.
And Enron was, a company that obviously, failed. But the theory was that merchant generators could build power plants and then, market that electricity in this free market system rather than utilities having what we call like the vertically integrated system where we have generation, transmission, and distribution.
Right.
So that generation component was deregulated and allowed for the market to build new generation. So what we've seen here in Maryland, unfortunately, is continuous demand going up, and because of economic reasons and environmental reasons, many coal-fired power plants have shut down.
Right.
And so we have this imbalance now that is really kind of hitting people in the pocketbook.
Mm-hmm. And we import 40% of the power.
We sure do. Yeah, it's 40%. And that's what gets into the capacity and the congestion charges,
right.
which I know you deal with that a lot with our power supplier. Our power supplier is ACES Power Marketing. If you were to describe that capacity and congestion, how would you explain that to people?
Well, the congestion is I like the first example that somebody told me was it's like being on a highway.
Yes.
And you have like 4 lanes of traffic, and then something happens and it goes down to 2 lanes or 3 lanes. Then you got all this congestion and all these cars trying to get through the same lanes. And to me, that's kind of like congestion on the power lines. You get
right.
If you get too much, that more than the line can handle, then you're going to have this congestion, and you're going to have to pay extra for that.
Right, and it's a symptom of the fact that major transmission lines have not been built in Maryland over the past, certainly in the last couple of decades.
Right, and I don't think they've really been built a lot on the East Coast at all. I think you see more like out in the Midwest, and then a lot of too what we. The country wants to go to renewables, and then, the wind blows not really here and the sun doesn't shine here, but you can have plenty of renewables in other parts of the country. But then you got to build transmission to get that generation to where the load is.
Correct.
So that needs to happen as well.
Yeah. And I think the solar aspect of it here in Maryland has been somewhat of a challenge, because I know we have our solar farm right here in Hughesville, and there's been other solar farms that have been sited in the state of Maryland, some in our service territory, others not. But there's been a lot of push-pull when it comes to the siting of these large facilities in the state. Farmland being utilized for solar has been resisted by counties, and to the point where they had to, the legislature passed a bill last year to almost kind of force the hand of the landowner that, solar, not force the hand of the landowner, force the hand of the county governments that they could not zone out large scale solar, that they couldn't put roadblocks in, to prevent these types of facilities from getting built. So there's been that. And then the other big producer of electricity that we were supposed to have online by now is offshore wind.
Right.
Offshore wind was supposed to bring thousands of new megawatts into the PJM, and especially into the state of Maryland and Delaware. And of course, there hasn't been 1 kilowatt produced yet because there has been nothing done off the coast of Maryland. So there's a real generation crisis, and I will call it a crisis because it's not just us saying it; it's the PJM saying it, and they are they're issuing a lot of dire warnings right now that if more generation is not put online sooner rather than later, that we're looking at load issues. And as soon as like June of 2027. And that's a scary thought.
Right.
We hope we don't get there. But it's a wake up call, I think, for everyone.
Right. And I think that last year was the first year that, we've been saying this for years.
Sure.
But I think last year was the first year that people really started listening. And it was only after prices started going up.
Yes.
So we get blamed for the price increases, but like you said, we manage our portfolio. And the last time I checked, we had the lowest SOS price in the state.
Something we're very proud of.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's the old, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And in politics, prices matter.
Right.
And electricity prices matter because it's a very potent political issue. And so what happened last year was the state legislators decided, hey, we need to do something on generation. So they issued, they passed a bill that required the Public Service Commission of Maryland to issue an RFP to get new generation built in the state. And there was a carrot approach to that there would be fast-tracked permitting for those facilities. And they didn't limit it just to renewables. They did allow for a natural gas component. However, natural gas is a fossil fuel that is not popular with many people in the state.
Right.
And so getting to the point where shovels are in the ground, steel is going in the air is a ways off. And I think, credit to the legislature for moving forward, but they're not done. I mean, there's going to be some additional bills this year. I think that, this upcoming session is going to address it as well.
Right, right. Well, we just issued a request for proposal for power, different, links in different links in years of contract.
Oh, yeah.
Different amounts
years,
of
sure.
megawatt hours. And we just said, just give us your proposal. We didn't say we wanted thermal or renewables or whatever, So we did get a lot of response to that.
And I think it's been recognized, right? I mean, we've kind of been out there proactively looking to try to help this issue.
Right. Yeah, I agree. We went over some of the proposals yesterday. It was pretty interesting. So Good. We'll have more on that in a couple of weeks.
Excellent. Yeah.
When you get that many proposals in, it's like, how the heck, where do you start?
I was just going to say and these are not just, run of the mill book reports.
Right.
These are like complicated proposals and we look at those along with our power supplier, right? And to evaluate
we run them through their model, and say, is this a good value and does this fit well with the rest of the contracts that we have in the portfolio? We set an all-time peak this past January of 1,036 megawatts, but our base load is probably more around 300 megawatts.
Okay.
Yeah. The amount we need all the time.
Right.
But then we're also trying to be proactive, like you said, and look at, new load coming into our service territory. And so what do we need to be able to serve that? So there's a lot of smart people out there that have come up with a lot of good proposals. And we also have the request for information out on the street, where we're really looking to think outside the box and say,
yes,
what can you do? How can we want to be part of the solution to this issue? We don't want to be always talking about the problem, even though we've never been a generating co-op, never owned generation.
Except back like when we were very first formed, right?
Right.
But I mean, that's lifetime ago,
right.
lifetimes.
1937.
Yeah, lifetimes ago. Yeah. And that power portfolio that we have, that used to be your job prior to become CEO, right?
Yes, it was. I was power supply director at one point.
Yeah.
And then I moved up to the CFO, and then we moved to the power supply as part of my role there because I really enjoyed it a lot. So, I had it there too.
Yeah. So you were familiar with, the ACES power marketing and kind of what they do and how they do it for us. And I know just from my perspective, it's been a really good thing for us to talk about to our legislators, to our local, to just run-of-the-mill folks about how we procure power, why we do it the way we do, and what it's led to. So It's been a good success story, I think, for us. And it kind of brings me back when we were talking about deregulation of 99. Another component of that bill was the legislature at the time, they wanted to have alternative suppliers be able to market your supply your electricity supply on the open market. And so they wanted, if somebody wanted to, you're always going to get your bill from SMECO, but if you wanted to get a supply from a different company, you could choose that. And so that component of deregulation was really not successful in Southern Maryland. And we saw, unfortunately, instead of lower prices from alternative suppliers, we saw predatory practices. Right. We saw higher prices. And in many cases, we saw, upwards of $5 million of overpayments by our customers who were on alternative suppliers.
Right. Per year.
Yeah. And many people didn't realize it.
Right.
They were just on alternative supply. They had signed up for it somehow, some way, or they were kind of duped into it. And so we worked on a bill in 2024 called Senate Bill 1 because it really wanted to put some reforms in the market. And it is today the proudest thing that I've ever done in my career here at SMECO. But we pushed that bill and it passed overwhelmingly. And what it did was it just said, look, if you're an alternative supplier, you got to be able to compete at the standard offer service level. So that's what SMECO provides. It's on our website. It is 100%, transparent of what your price is. And if you can compete with that, you can do it. But unfortunately, many of those alternative suppliers have decided to leave the state. And so you're hearing a lot of kind of Senate Bill 1, sort of turning back the clock kind of things. And, hindsight is 2020. We never should have done that. But in the bottom line is it's really saving people money. Right. And we're very proud that it happened. Right.
Yeah, I agree. There's people who don't agree with us.
Right.
But we have the numbers to back it up.
Yeah, we do. And that was one of the things that I was really proud of was that we tracked how many, because we didn't have like 100,000 people on alternative suppliers. We had, at the most, 10,000 or so, or maybe a little less than that.
Yeah, around 6,000, I think was
yeah.
Placed.
And then, but we tracked it. We knew how much they were paying over our SOS. And so we followed that month to month to month, and we did the numbers. And when we showed it to legislators, they were like, we got to fix this. And so yeah, there was a lot of iterations to it. And I think when, if people hear about Senate Bill 1, from SMECO's perspective, we're very proud of it. Right. and the reforms that it brought to bear. And so whether that'll be a discussion for this coming session kind of remains to be seen, but I do think you're going to see some more discussion about generation.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. And a lot of it with PJM in the mix as well.
Yeah, PJM has to be. They're the ones that control the grid for all of our, right. the 13 states. And
we need them.
And we need them. We have to have them. And what's happening in Annapolis is there are many legislators who are blaming PJM for right. lack of foresight, for lack of planning, lack of, understanding of the generation needs that we need here and not only in the state of Maryland, but in the entire grid. So you're going to see a lot of criticism of them. But I think the consistent message from PJM is that we need to build new generation. Right. We can't close anymore. We cannot. We're paying a lot of money right now to coal plants, I think, in Baltimore to stay open, to just keep the lights on.
For reliability.
Yeah. And it's very expensive to keep them open.
It is. I agree. When you were talking earlier about retiring 6,000 megawatts.
I believe it's gigawatts, yeah.
Retiring 6,000, replacing it we replaced that with like 1,600, but those 1,600 are all renewables.
Yes.
So when you got states and the trust me, I think climate change is a bad thing, right? But when you have states and the country wanting to move everything to, get away from thermal energy and move everything to renewables, we still have a ways to go there. There's nothing wrong with it, but you got to be able to have power dispatchable generation.
Yes, 24 hours a day, 7
right.
days a week.
And
yes.
You can't do that right now with renewables only.
And I think that's sort of leading everyone to this nuclear renaissance, I'll call it. More and more people are coming around to the idea of building additional nuclear, whether that's at our Calvert Cliffs. I say that because I live in Southern
right.
Maryland, but the Calvert Cliffs facility in Calvert County, or these small nuclear reactors, modular nuclear reactors, they call them. They're a very novel approach. It's just the time to get them to market
right.
is the thing. And the other kind of bad thing is that even for like a combustion turbine with natural gas, the time, if you and I ordered one today,
I know it would take
5 to 7 years. I mean, so
this isn't going to happen overnight.
It's not. And these,
and the cost of them, the cost of all this equipment has gone up.
It definitely has. And I see, you and I see it just in, not necessarily in the generation side, but just on the distribution side.
Right.
The cost of transformers, poles, insulators, everything has gone way up, and it's going to continue. Okay. And it's something that we all live with right now. And I just think that it's going to become more and more of a political issue. And I just recall back in the election of 2006, Bob Ehrlich was running for re-election against Martin O'Malley. And if you remember correctly, back then, the deregulation caps on electricity prices came off during that period of time, during Ehrlich's 4 years, and prices went way up because they were kept artificially low because they were capped, right? Well, then Mayor O'Malley of Baltimore just used that as a club on the sitting governor. And even though it was right, wrong, or indifferent, it became a huge political liability for the governor. And O'Malley used that plus others, other means, whatever, to, eventually win that election. And I think, you're going to see people continue to talk about electricity prices and who's to blame.
Right.
Why are they so high? What's going on? And I think one of our jobs here at SMECO is to try to explain it from our perspective. Right. We don't want to get into the politics of it because no one wins there. But
exactly.
But it's better to just give people like the straight, well, I always call it the straight talk on power prices, what we deal with, and what we're doing to help mitigate high prices. So it's a good thing. I know one thing, I've learned a lot about these types of things from you over the years. So I appreciate you telling me everything and being patient with me.
No, you're great. You handle all the irate people.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of them, but I don't know. I've got broad shoulders.
Well, you're really good at it too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's not fun. I'm just kind of used to it. And I tell you, the people who are great are the people in our contact center.
Yeah.
Those folks, I love having conversations with them when, they're dealing with calls every day, from getting their power turned off and on to getting on bill payment arrangements to why is my bill so high?
Right.
That's credit to them. And I know you're very proud of them as well. I
am. I was looking at the reviewing the Watts News before it went out. And we had a lot of really good, thank you notes from members in there this past month. So that's always nice to read.
Yeah, keeps us going.
I have one story.
Yeah.
It was when I lived in Calvert, so it's been a while ago. Yeah. And I was at some party, and there was a bunch of sweet little ladies in there from the Republican Club of Calvert or something.
Could have been.
And when they found out I worked at SMECO, do you know Tom Dennison? I said, yes, I do. We just love Tom Dennison.
Oh,
He's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I can remember going to the Republican Club. I think it was the Republican Club. It was either or Democratic Central Committee. Doesn't matter. But we had built a transmission line over in Huntingtown. And unfortunately, the crews, when they did the layout of the line, there was a pole that was put directly right in front of the bay window of one of
I remember
these
right off Route 4.
Right on Route 4.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention her name, but I remember her name. I'll never forget it. But I'll just say that it was right in her bay window. And this woman was very connected politically. And she made a couple phone calls. And when I tell you that my phone lit up that day, it lit up that day when that poll started going in. And so, yeah, so I remember we had to, relocate the pole. We moved it down the line a little ways, got it kind of on the edge of her property rather than right in the middle, because her house was just right there on Route 4, right in front of her bay window. And it was a bad look. We admitted the mistake, and fortunately we were able to move the pole. But
and she was very happy after that.
It was a lesson learned. It was a lesson learned. But I don't know. It's stuff like that makes you better, I think. And I know that, in future projects, we learned a lot from that job. And so I'm glad to hear that. But anyway, well, this is fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I think we should do more like this, where we just come and just talk about, just tell people what's happening in the industry and
I agree.
here at SMECO. And
I agree. I think it's a good thing, and I'm happy to do it.
all right.
Awesome.
See you next time.
Yes, ma'am.